with the sustainability for vocational education during COVID-19, which held by Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, in collaboration with Edu Excellence and hal-hal University of Applied Sciences, Finland, on June 2nd, 2021. It's been a great honor to me, Erina Riani, to be the Master of Ceremony and welcome each and every one of you in this international webinar. In this great occasion, let me extend our highest gratitude for the opportunity we have together here so we are able to attend this seminar. There are a lot of participants who are willingly attending this event to share their ideas and discuss issues related to the topic. So thank you very much for your kind participation. Before we proceed our program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our Honorable, the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, Vice Deans of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, Heads of Department in Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, Coordinators of Study Program in Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, Chairman of the Regional Leadership for the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, which in this occasion is represented by Executive Director of Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, Bali, Vice President of Edu Excellence Finland, the Director of School of Vocational Teacher Education in hal-hal University of Applied Sciences, Finland, Education Expertise in Finland, and all distinguished guest delegates. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your position because now let's be silent for a moment and bow our head for the sake of solemn and sincere prayer. I will lead the prayer. Praise starts. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us sing Indonesian National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. Just for the operator, the stage is yours. Once again, for the operator, the stage is yours.
Tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku, di sanalah aku berdiri, jadi pandu ibuku. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku, marilah kita bersatu, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bangsaku, rakyatku semuanya. Bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya, untuk Indonesia. Indonesia merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang ku cinta. Indonesia merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia. Merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang ku cinta. Indonesia, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me read you the agenda of today's seminar. The first agenda is the opening ceremony. The second one is the remarks from Vice President of Edu Excellence and the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education. The third one, taking a picture for the event. Next, it followed by first session of keynote speaker, Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman, SAG MSc, continued with the first discussion time. Then the second session by our second keynote speaker, Dr. Jerry Laukia, continued with the second discussion time. And the last one is closing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my dear pleasure to introduce the Vice President of Edu Excellence, His Excellencies, John Marcus, PhD, MSc, to deliver keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Marcus, PhD, MSc. The time is yours.
Terima kasih. Selamat siang, dear chairman, dear presidents, dear directors, dear participants. It's my great pleasure to give a keynote speech in this unique Indonesia-Finland webinar during the COVID-19 times. It's my great pleasure and honor to do this. Let me share my screen first and I will start my presentation. I hope you all can see. Okay, I hope you can see my presentation. So, some words about Edu Excellence Finland. I am the Vice President in Edu Excellence, the organizations for three most prestigious universities of applied sciences, Haaga-Helia, Laurea, and Metropolia in Helsinki capital region in Finland. So starting with a few pictures from Finland, as you know, we have 4 full seasons. Here in Finland, we have quite hard winters, beautiful though, but also during the summertime, it's very beautiful and warm. For instance, today we are having 25 degrees of Celsius here, which is very, very nice for us. Not very humid as you have in Indonesia, but milder and a little bit more dry. But this is Finland by its nature. We have thousands of lakes here, lots of water, which makes our country very beautiful. And I think this gentleman is one of the most well-known person from Finland, Mr. Santa Claus, living in Rovaniemi, Arctic Circle in Finland, Lapland. So some words about Edu Excellence. We are kind of a global provider of Finnish education for modern working life needs and for different purposes. One of the crown jewels in our system is that our post-graduation employment nowadays, it's even 95%. So we are definitely doing something right in our universities of applied sciences when it comes to company, cooperation, and industry collaboration. So we definitely answer to the requests of our company sector. We have a lot of global references. We are operating in many countries all around the world. Not in Indonesia yet, but this is great, outstanding opportunity to tighten our relations together and consider on various ways of doing collaboration in future. Our education is based on lifelong learning and especially future working life competencies, what is needed in Industry 4.0, cybersecurity, latest AI technologies, and etc. It's very important. In our universities, we have altogether over 2,500 experts, and nowadays approximately 35,000 students, and we are covering 25% of all the education in Finland through Edu Excellence shareholder universities. Very shortly, I want to introduce you the pyramid of education system in Finland. Of course, we are starting from the early childhood education and daycare up to pre-primary education for 1 year, which after the basic education is for 9 years. After that, we have two great options, either to go to general upper secondary education or vocational training on the other side. Actually, the right side should be labeled as vocational education and training. After that, we have two options to go to so-called academic universities or universities of applied sciences that I'm representing now. The both ways brings the BA degree first, and after that, all the students are able to continue in master programs. There are no dead ends in Finnish education system, which is great opportunity, because even if you went to vocational training after basic education, you will come up to be a PhD. You can make your doctorate after your route. So everything is possible in Finland. You can go from different education to another very flexibly. And in Finnish education system, we rely heavily on the lifelong learning. Some statistics about Finland for your information. We have been doing quite well in different measures globally as a home of education, quality of expert products, quality of life, innovative country. Comparing to the size of population, we are one of the most innovative countries in the whole world. Of course, we have lots of technology originally coming from Finland, as well as some gaming industry, AI issues, etc. We have very little corrupted, good country, social justice, etc. So Finland is very nice country in the sense, and we are doing something quite correctly. The latest results, fourth time in a row, we are labeled as the happiest country in the world. Of course, it's fantastic to grade such a label. I am not so sure if we are really the happiest people, but anyway, it's nice that we can label ourselves so. And hopefully as many students also from Indonesia could feel and see Finnish environment and education in new future. Something about our skills in Edu Excellence, just few to be mentioned. Of course, student is in the center in everything that we do. As I mentioned, Industry 4.0 skills, ecosystems, ICT, clean and sustainable solutions. I think there is something that we could also have collaboration together with Indonesia. We have some urban farming issues, very heavily studied here in Finland. Innovation, entrepreneurship things, incubators, starting up schools, living labs. And of course, one of the key issues is the Finnish pedagogy, how we train our teachers, how we train our leaders, coming to digital pedagogy, curriculum design and all kind of reform and development of education. Just to show you some labels, this means that in our universities, we have very organic collaboration with industrial sector. You can find also very familiar labels here like Canon, Fujitsu, Dell, etc. So in the daily basis work, we are heavily collaborating with all of these companies and corporations for them to give our students real life tasks during the studies and so on. Just to mention a few degree programs that we are having in English language, in bachelor, master, and also EMBA programs for executives and work-life persons. Some capacity and skills development blocks, so to say, as I mentioned, teacher training, early childhood training like pedagogy, is very important and one of our key roles. And the hot topics at the time being in the whole world, like cybersecurity, circular economy, robotics, IoT, clean technologies, etc. In the end of my speech, I want to show you a video which I hope is very interesting. You will find very interesting, and there are some sceneries from Finland shown quite nicely. Hopefully we can.
I'm sorry, Mr. John Marcus. We couldn't see the video. Excuse me, Mr. John Marcus. Excuse me, sir. Mr. John Marcus, can you hear my voice? Mr. John Marcus? Excuse me, Mr. John Marcus, we couldn't see your video presentation.
Sorry?
We couldn't see your video presentation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. How is it possible for you to show it from there? Because I think my presentation. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand.
You can try once again to share the video. Oh, we can share it for you. We can share the video for you.
You can share it for me.
Yeah. Please wait.
Okay.
A moment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
But you show
Okay.
you saw my presentation before.
Yeah, but sorry, it's not moving at all.
Okay.
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 Okay, just wait a moment.
That's not the video. It's in the end of the presentation.
Yeah, at the end of the presentation. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, let's see. Terdapat bisa? Oh,
It's the second
yeah.
last
The second
page.
yang paling terakhir. The last one.
This one.
Yeah, this one. Oh, sorry, Mr. Gianmarcus, because the file is on your computer, so we couldn't play it for you. Can you just
It's a link. You just click it. It's a link straight to YouTube.
Oh. Wait.
The picture.
Oh.
The picture is a link.
But we couldn't access the link.
Oh.
Okay. Mr. Gianmarcus, can you share the screen once again?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
My screen.
Yeah.
I will try.
Yeah.
You can see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Let me try once again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now we could see the figure. Thank you so much, Mr. Gianmarcus.
No worries, no worries. Let's. Can you hear?
Yes.
Good. Hmm? So, okay, thank you very much for your intention. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Mr. Dr. Jan Marcus Holm, PhD MSc, for the great welcoming speech.
Thank you.
And afterward, we would like to invite the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, His Excellencies Dr. Igede Sudirta MPD, to deliver keynote speech as well as to officially open the international webinar with theme Sustainability for Vocational Education during pandemic COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Igede Sudirta MPD. The time is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the Master of Ceremony for giving me a great honor to deliver welcome speech in this good occasion. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Gede Sudirta, Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty in Ganesha University of Education. I would like to express our best regard to Vice Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, the Vice President at Edu Excellence, Mr. Jan Marcus Holm, PhD, MSc. Good morning, Mr. Thank you for welcome speech. Thank you for your information today about the education in Finland. Very interesting for me. The Vice President at Edu Excellence, Mr. Jan Marcus Holm, PhD. The Director of School of Vocational Teacher Education in hal-hal University of Applied Science, Finland, Dr. Jerry Laukia. Good morning, Mr. Chairman of the Regional Leadership for the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, BPD PHR Bali, as represented by Mr. Ida Bagus Purwa Sidemen SAG MSI, Director of Executive PHRI Bali, and all distinguished guest delegates. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously helped to us make this event come together to become success that had by collaboration among the Home Economic Education Study Program Ganesha University of Education, Edu Excellence Finland, and hal-hal University of Applied Science Finlandia. We would not have done without you. In this special occasion, I am pleased to announce that our topic for the webinar is sustainability for vocational education during pandemic COVID-19. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, let us say thanks to the Almighty God. Because of His blessing, you can gather here with health condition in this spectacular event, even though in virtual meeting. And the most incredible thing, the term presented in this webinar is very appropriate to be discussed to guide, understand, and produce step in developing vocational education after the pandemic COVID-19. As we know, more than a year of pandemic COVID-19 has swept the world. The impact has been up to all sector and aspect of life, such as economic, tourism, business, and so on, including the education. The COVID-19 pandemic has so many negative impact, but it also has positive impact on the world of education in Indonesia. The positive impact can motivate through difficult time to continue to shape the more advanced goal of Indonesian education. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, consciously or unconsciously, that the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us within and will become a new culture for all of us to live our lives as human in the future. For that, let's try review. what the positive effect of what we taught to us by this pandemic. There are the pandemic was triggering the acceleration of education transformation. Emergence of online learning application and number of free online course give a rising unlimited creativity has come with new ideas by the scientists, researcher, lecturer, and even student to try to do experiment to find new creativity and present as effective and efficient learning process. Emergence, the collaboration between teacher and parent, and learning practice in the family, triggering the teacher become more friendly, technology literate. And then the internet as a source of positive information, and the student can be supervised by parents directly. Those are some the positive of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, there are many more positive things that we can feel. However, we still hope that the pandemic will end soon and face-to-face learning will be carried out again soon. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, besides some positive impacts above, this pandemic also has some negative impact on our education, including there is no learning in the classroom. Even learning continues online, student as well as teacher or lecturer must adapt to this situation. Uh, Number second, resource gap. Many students have so far relied on the educational facilities provided by school and campus. However, not all students, not student or student have prepared facilities that support their online learning. The learning process feel harder. Some students feel that learning from home feel hard than before because students are not used to it, and there are several obstacles such as technology, social and psychological, increased risk of harm. Reporting from UNICEF, the racing time students learn and socialize online on the internet can increase the risk of dangerous, especially for elementary education students. Some of the risks is include bullying, as well as negative concepts spread on the internet that has the potential to harm the children. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, to impact of the pandemic wisely should be used the lesson learned in managing current and future education. This is milestone of change for our thinking paradigm in managing education wisely. This pandemic may not end, but we must not remain silent. To be able to go back to the past in the term of managing our education, maybe it won't happen again. Education cannot be carried out like it was before the pandemic. For that, let's make our past of as material for reflection and lesson that we get from the COVID-19 pandemic to change it into a new education management in the future. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, Kemenristek Dikti, the Minister of Educational in Indonesia, formulate its element of change toward a vocational independent campus. This element must be implemented in order to become a vocational higher education institution that link and match the industry. The eight elements, among others, the first, the curriculum must be put together. The curriculum is compiled jointly between educational institution and the stakeholders. The curriculum must contain aspects of hard skill and soft skill that are needed in the world of work. Project-based learning. Number second, project-based learning. Practice must be done to ensure that the hard skill and character develop of students are guaranteed so they study and work, learn to apply and not just theory. Number three is participant of practitioner and instructor from industry required. The participant of instructor from industry must be significantly increased by at least 15, 50 hours per semester per study program. This is a very important profession because how can students get skill that are relevant to the industry if the practitioners are not from the industry? Number four, obligation of internship in the world of work for one semester. For 1 year or at least one semester, student do an internship in the real life of work. Number five, have the right certification and competency. Vocational education graduates as well as lecturer as well as instructor must have the appropriate certification and competency for its industrial sector. Number six, lecture and vocational instructor receive training. Ensure that vocational college lecturer or instructor regularly receive technology update and training from the world of work. Number seven, have applied research. This applied research support the teaching factory or teaching industry in the vocational college. Applied research start from a case or need in an industry. And the last, uptake commitment. Commitment uptake supposed to guarantee the recruitment of college graduates in the world of work. If you don't do that, it means it's not link and match. The link and match criteria are much more stringent than just MOU. These 8 aspects, all of which must be fulfilled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a challenge that is quite tough for us and also an opportunity for us to collaborate on all aspects and situation in managing education in the future after this pandemic. To the further carry out fundamental change in the field of education, especially vocational education. I hope that all of experience and change in this concept of management of vocational education can be discussed throughout this webinar, and hope that a recommendation can be generated for future education management. It is clear that we will never go back to the past in managing education like before the COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, we from Undiksha really need collaboration and cooperation from various parties to realize the vision of becoming a superior universities based on the three Hita Karana philosophies in Asia in 2045. Currently, Undiksha is in the top 10 position of the best national universities in Indonesia, and is still far away in the rank of university world class, but we really hope to become one of the world class university with various abilities that we have. And of course, we must be able to collaborate as much as possible with international university and then be able to take action together. At least that is our vision. Unisa has five faculties, sorry, 8 faculties, one of which in the engineering and vocational faculty, which was founded in 2002 and currently has 9 study program like family welfare education, or home economic education, concentration on culinary, fashion, beauty, and tourism, education informatic engineering, mechanical engineering education, electrical engineering education, vocational education for culinary arts, computer science, informatic system, information management, and electronic. Finally, we sincerely hope that this seminar can produce several policy recommendation for the implementation of vocational education in pandemic period, as well as the implementation of independent vocational education according to the concept given by the Minister of Education and Culture of Indonesia, as well as resulting collaboration between the Ganesha University of Education and the Haga Helia University Finland in several activities such as human resource development, student exchange, visiting professor, research, science publication, curriculum design, innovation, incubator, and so on. Thank you, and I do apologize if there are things that do not place in this welcome speech. And for that, honorable ladies and gentlemen, let's open this webinar together. Om Santi 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 Om. Good afternoon, good morning in Finland, and happy webinar. I hope we get some recommendation for sustainable in vocational education. Thank you. Om Santi 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 Om.
Thank you so much for Mr. Gede for your great welcome speech. Well, ladies and gentlemen, international webinar with the sustainability for vocational education during pandemic COVID-19 2021 has been opened officially. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main agenda. The seminar will have two sessions, who will be led by our moderator, Maderiki Ponggakusyanda, STR Part 4. For moderator, the time is yours.
Thanks for the time that given to me. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, to all participants from Bali, Indonesia. And good morning to all participants from Finland. Warmest greeting from Ganesha University of Education. Let me giving the salutation again to our Honorable, the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, dear Vice Deans of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, the Honorable Executive Director, PHRI Bali, in this special occasion, attending on behalf of the Chairman, Regional Leadership for Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association. He couldn't attending in this webinar due to his urgent agenda as Vice Governor of Bali Province. Honorable Vice President of Edu Excellence Finland, Honorable the Director of School of Vocational Teacher Education in Haga Helia University of Applied Sciences, Finland, education experts in Finland, and all distinguished guests delegates. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam harmoni. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ricky. In this occasion, we'll lead the webinar as a moderator. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you in this webinar with the theme Sustainability for Vocational Education During Pandemic COVID-19 that held by Engineering and Vocational Faculty with Haga Helia University and Edu Excellence in Finland. Ladies and gentlemen, pandemic COVID-19 drive us to the dramatically shifted or facing the disruption everything is changed rapidly and massively. Among industries, the tourism and hospitality sector was the hardest hit in terms of employment in Bali. It also giving the impact in educational, especially in vocational education. Learning that was originally done face-to-face has now turned into distance learning by optimizing various digital devices and applications. As we noticed from VET, or Vocational Education Training Institution, have made effort to initiate or expand online training delivery during the pandemic COVID-19, but face many challenges. Therefore, we're glad to announce our honorable keynote speakers. Let me share the PowerPoint first. Okay. So here with our keynote speaker, the first session is Ida Bagus Purwa Sidaman, SAG MSE. His educational background, Master of Religion and Culture at Hindu University of Indonesia, or well known as Unhi Denpasar. And currently on his study at doctoral program at Hindu University of Indonesia, or Unhi Denpasar. His occupation: he is an executive director of regional leadership for the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, or namely BPDPHRI Bali, as the director of Certification Institute of Hospitality Industry, and as auditor in tourism and hospitality industry, as assessor in Trihita Karana Award, the local Balinese Wisdom Awards, and as lecturer at Hindu University of Indonesia Bali, or well known as Unhi Denpasar, as lecturer at International Institute of Tourism and Business in Denpasar. His organization background are as project coordinator at Bali Tourism Board and as regional leadership for the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, BPDPHRI Bali. Well, we are going to the second keynote speakers. Our second keynote speaker is Dr. Jerry Laukia. His educational background, he's made his PhD research about the history of vocational education in Finland. His occupation, the director of School of Vocational Teacher Education in Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences, Finland. And then member of editorial board of Journal of Professional and Vocational Education, and member in several committee in the Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. His specialization are management of education, especially vocational and tertiary education, and then history of education, and then vocational teacher education. His publication, are vocational teacher education, pedagogy, or VET, vocational education training. And his seminars and presentation in international are aim and objective of VET in Finland, and then following by skill and competence of VET teachers, and then skill and competence of VET teachers again in South of Korea, and then cooperations between University of Applied Sciences and World of Work, Central University of Technology in South of Africa. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I start the session, let me share regarding the webinar guideline. The webinar consists of 2 sessions, and then time presentation for the speaker is around 45 minutes for each presentation, and then following by question and answer at 20 minutes for each session. And then all the participants should keep on the muted mode during the presentation. And then the last one is for all of the participants, the question should be write down on the question and answer column. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to welcoming our honorable speaker under name Ide Bagus Purwa Sidemen SAGMSI to deliver his presentation. Time is yours.
Thank you, Bapak Ricky. So, could you hear voice from me, which as well as?
Sure.
Good.
Sure.
Okay. Good afternoon, all the participants of the webinar. The Dean of Honorable the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Bapak Dr. Gede Sudirta. So maybe it's good if I just release my masker. So how I look now? Good. Okay. I repeat again. So Honorable Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Bapak Dr. Gede Sudirta. Good afternoon. Selamat sore, Bapak. And Vice President of Edu Excellence in Finland, Dr. Jan Markus. Good morning, sir, and all of our colleagues, all the participants from the Finland this morning. Right now in Bali, afternoon going to evening, so this is good time for afternoon tea or afternoon coffee time in Finland. So hopefully you finish already your breakfast and start for your all activities this morning. And all of the participants for this webinar, and also other speakers, Mr. Jerry Laukia. Ladies and gentlemen, and all the students following this seminar, Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Salam Namudayo. The first of all, let me to say with the greeting from our association, especially apologies from our chairman, Bapak Profesor Dr. Cokorda Oke Sukawati. He is also as a chairman of Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Association with his agenda this afternoon. So I have the assignment from him to deliver the presentation for this webinar this afternoon. So let me to deliver for his note for this afternoon with the pointers of I sent already to the committee this afternoon from our chairman. So to begin this speech, let us extend our utmost gratitude to the God, the Almighty, for the blessing given to us all so that we can gather today in good health and in peace. So this is the new era with the different time in Indonesia, Bali, Indonesia, in Finland. We still can meet together. And this is the new era with the new digital. So meeting like this before only with the highest or I mean for the company with the highest technology can doing like this, but now everybody we can meet all the time with the video call, conference, meeting, and etc. It is an honor for me to attend on this good occasion of vocational education prospect for tourism and creative industry webinar. As we all may notice that COVID-19 case appeared for the first time in Wuhan, China in the late of 2019. And by early 2020, the virus entered Indonesia and spreading to multiple provinces, including Bali. Thus, on February 2020 has been a momentum of our fight to tackle this COVID-19 pandemic until today. As 53% Bali economic depend on tourism sector, and there are more than 1 million jobs created by this sector, Bali is among those who got hit the worst by COVID-19. This happened because we need to limit the domestic visit and ban international tourism to Bali for preventing the spreading of the virus. I truly understand the negative impact received by Balinese people during those 14 months must be very difficult. To mention some of this impact between 2019 and 2020 are as follow. International tourist visit has been dropped to minus 83.26%, and domestic tourist visit dropped to minus 56.41%, while Bali's coming from hotel and restaurant tax dropped to minus 71 and 35%. This is worst condition for our tourism and economic in Bali. Tourism is our main economic sector. This pandemic has been leaving us with no choice but doing anything that we can to improve our tourism. During pandemic, government of Bali province has been committed and cooperated with all stakeholders to make the best preparation in the tourism sector in accordance with the health protocol. Ladies and gentlemen and all the participants for this webinar, Bali has been making a good progress in an effort to tackle COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, the government of Bali province cooperate with all district government to accelerate the vaccination process. We have been successfully vaccinated more than 1.5 million people in Bali up until now. It means 35% of Balinese people already have their shot. I am optimistic we can achieve 70% of this entire population by July this year, and we will eventually achieve herd immunity. This will be a great achievement for Bali, and we can regain trust from the world. We can eventually say that it is safe to travel to Bali again. Trust is very important in tourism. Quoting from WTO, trust is the new currency. Bali has 58 recommended hospitality capable to treat COVID-19 patients and equipped with isolation rooms. We also have 18 special laboratories equipped with PCR testing instrument and capable to do up to 14 tests in a day. And we are still going to improve until we can have a full control over the infection curve. I also would like to deliver a good news to you all the participants of this webinar. The government of Bali currently has been preparing 3 green zones to receive international tourist visit. Those green zones are Ubud, Sanur, and Nusa Dua. We have
Sorry.
achievement
Hello.
100%.
Mr. Pak Bagus, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pak.
Could you share some presentation or slide, maybe? Or at the moment, we couldn't see any presentation or slide in the Zoom, in this Zoom.
Okay, but I say Like I say, I shared already before. Let me to try to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank
how about
you.
this? Okay.
Thank you, Pak Bagus. Suksema.
Couldn't see the moving of the pointer, Pak.
It's still stuck. Maybe you,
Okay.
you can start the slideshow, maybe.
Wait a minute. How about
Sure.
now?
Sure.
Okay.
So we can see the presentation now.
Okay.
Thank you, Pak Bagus. Suksema.
So yeah, I just moving a pointer for pointer so we can see with the green zone area. Like I said, for Nusa Dua, Ubud, and Sanur. So this one. So the government is also preparing the grand design safe travel bubble and the green zone tourism guideline. This document will give clear regulation regarding the related tourism activities and procedure such as entry-exit procedure, quarantine procedure, and mitigation step when there is any COVID case occurred. The government of Bali Province also recommended various ministries and institutions as well as the top 20 top state-owned enterprises, or we call it BUMN, to work from Bali. So right now, our government has the program with the tech work from Bali. The economic potential of the digital nomad, which has been the trend in the last decade, is also need to be appraised and supported. These digital nomads are long-staying visitors, usually from abroad, who conduct their business remotely and online. For this, they need high-speed internet connection to do their work. We will try to improve our digital technology to meet this new demand. Ladies and gentlemen, and all the participants, we must stay optimistic that Balinese tourism, inspired by Tri Hitakarana, values will be able to return to normal again and even get any better. To keep improving the quality of our tourism, we need a good vocational education in tourism and creative economy. We must indeed do some adaptation to the new normal guidelines, which also affect the new way for tourism in conducting their business. However, I believe we can just adapt very well to this new normal situation where tourism and other sectors include health and safety aspect in the operation. And for this reason, we must be prepared, especially those who are studying tourism and hospitality. The young generation is our future, and we must ensure they got the best opportunities to develop their skill and abilities, both hard skill and soft skill. Before I end my pointer, allow me to make a wishful prayer for the recovery of our tourism in Indonesia, in Bali. Let us do our best to recover our tourism together. Thank you. Om Santi 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 Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Namo Buddhaya. The name of Chairman Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Association, Professor Chooke Sukawati. So let me to, yeah, this is some pictures about the travel, and we are right now how to make it like packaging for travel domestic to come in Bali, because almost the industrial in Bali ready with the protocol, health protocol, and also got already the CHSA certificate, cleanliness, health, and safety, also the environment. And about the travel bubble, we also try to keep the communication with the others travel, others agent to make it the true fly from Bali and other countries. But this is we still regarding our regulation in Indonesia also with the abroad. And also about the cleanliness. I mean, all the people right now, they already aware about the cleanliness. So this is a good point for us in our hospitality, especially for tourism hospitality in Bali right now. Also, there is some of tourists make it like a more last minute trip, and also they easy to come and come in Bali with the people where they knows as well already, like a couple or maybe with a family. So also with the good healthy for before they come to Bali. So this is the we call it like a solo travel take. And so there is a lot of people now, they're not going with the a lot of people, so they come with the couple or only with their families because they know already about the health each other. This is also in Bali right now. There's like we call it, there is especially for the object for tourism object with the ecotourism or authentic tourism. Especially in Bali right now, there is like camper car. So there is some object the accommodation we prepare with the camp and also with the modified with the car. So this is a good opportunity because a lot of people now, if even in our country, also from other country, they know well about the location with the what we call it, the protocol of the health in there's a place. This is a glamping. We call it a glamping, glamorous camping, or there is some object with the tents, and then they enjoy with the nature in some of place in Bali. Yeah, so this is the presentation from our chairman from Indonesia Hotel Restaurant Association. So hopefully this webinar to be success. And thank you very much. Om Santi 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 Om.
Okay. Thank you very much for Mr. Edu Purwasidaman, SAG MSE, for giving us such informative and interesting presentation that in regards of the Bali tourism or vocational education in the tourism in Bali. So, as I mentioned it before, well, ladies and gentlemen, please write down your questions on the chat column, and then I will read it in this webinar. So, is there any questions? So, as we noticed in the presentation, that the pattern of tourism in the post-COVID-19, maybe it will be positive term that after or post-COVID-19, and then it will be impacting in the vocational education, especially in the hospitality vocational education. So, is there any questions regarding in this first session? I still check the chat column. So, maybe we're still waiting the question. I have a question for Mr. Ida Bagus Purwasidaman SAG MSI. Om Swastiastu, Bapak.
Om Swastiastu.
Good afternoon. So, As we notice that in Bali, that many hospitality industry is temporarily closed due to the impact of pandemic COVID-19, and it directly impacted to the studied process in regards of vocational education, especially in tourism and hospitality student in Bali. Maybe what is the strategy to overcome this problem?
Yes, the impact of the COVID-19, that's not only for the hospitality, but the impact all the department, especially in economic in Bali. So as our association in Bali, so we doing starting from the last year 2020, we make it some program, especially for discuss with the coordination with the government, how to make it a program for our member in industry. So we make it like to change the all the procedure or SOP in our industry, and then also give some strategic to how to running the operational of the hotel. But unfortunately, more than 1 year already. So the condition is until now we doesn't know when the COVID-19 virus or pandemic this the end. That's why our association, that's a big impact for this pandemic that's going jump down. Also, there's a lot of our member, they're not officially closed, but only they close because no guests in the property. So that's why some our members just discuss together how to make how to struggling and make it some program with this worst condition. uh, I cannot exactly say like one strategy that's really functional, but there is a lot combination strategic from our member. Also, we talk together with the all stakeholder in Bali, with the leading sector in this tourism from the Dinas Pariwisata. They also give the opportunity for us to how the industry not close the all the operational of this hotel or property. That's why there's still difficult strategic. Even I read some strategic of marketing, there is no a good point with the good strategic on this condition. That's why Pak Ricky.
Thank you for the explanation, Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sidemen SAG MSI, giving us such informative regarding the tourism in Bali. So hopefully we can pass the pandemic as soon as possible. Now I just checked the chat column. It come from, let me check it first. The question is come from Dr. Wayan Sukerti. So, yeah. The question is, I would like to ask a question to Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sidemen. The first is, in connection with the ongoing COVID pandemic, which affect the tourism sector, are there any strategic steps for PHRI so that our graduates can be optimistic that they can work again in the tourism sectors? Maybe it's the same question, ya, Bapak.
Yes, that's the same question.
Yeah,
Pak.
I think it's the same question that I asked before. So let me check again in the question and answer. So I think there is no question and question again from the participant. Let me refresh again. One moment. One moment. Okay, let me check. Oh, we just noticed the question from Kadeheri Payudi. So let me read the question. As we know, vocational education, especially hotel or tourism, are impacted so much with this COVID-19. If we can say vocational education curriculum was 70% practice and 30% by theory. Part of percent practice is on the job training at hotel or hospitality industry. But at this pandemic, a lot of hotels are closed or even operational at minimum, or our students are get a challenge to on the job training. Is there anything we can do to collaborate between hotel, education center, and government to provide a place for on-the-job training, or even any other scheme to solve this issue? So this is the question from Kadeheri Payudi that he's stressing on the job training in hotel during pandemic COVID-19. So, Bapak Ida Bagus Purwo Sidaman SAG MSI, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Riki. So there is a good question from Bapak Heri, Bapak Heri. Yeah. So this is a very hard condition. This is a very hard. This condition is no good for us, especially for the graduate from the vocational student for hospitality. This is what we call it. So we try already talk with the because there is our member from the school that's all the students for the tourism. Then they ask about the graduate from the school because no change to doing the practice in hotel. This condition that's hard, very hard for us, all of us. But there is also, it's like in some place, like in Nusa Dua, but some hotels, not all hotel. Also in Sanur, they keep the student. They doing the training for the this hotel, and they give to keep running the hotel with the maintenance. So like the housekeeping, also like in restaurant, but we have a lot of students, they not have chance to doing the practice or training in this hotel. So hopefully maybe on next time, starting from now, when the government said to try to open the tourism. So we hope all of this condition get more better and better for the next time. Yeah, that's what, Pak Riki. I cannot hear your voice, Pak Riki.
I'm sorry, I'm still on the muted mode. I'm sorry. So I'm going to read another questions that come from Bapak Immanuel Iman Sine, BSc. I think this is from Finland. The question is, what is the ultimate strategy for Bali at this moment? As you mentioned, 3 green location and bubble traveling and so on. Thank you. So Bapak Ida Bagus Purwasidaman, time is yours.
Yeah, this is good question also. And right now, like our government said, for the 3 green zone, like in Nusa Dua, Sanur, and Ubud, there is already 100% all the people, especially for the employee in industry, tourism industry, already have the vaccinate for this time. So also the government doing the new normal agenda with the certificate for the CHSA, I mean for the cleanliness, health and safety environment. So all the industry already have the certificate. So that's like to approve the people we have already the protocol head when the guests coming for our property or all the industry like in hotel and then the travel agent, also the what we call it, the restaurant and also like a homestay. So that's the why we do it now in this condition for the make it the all the people, especially for the tourist guests from the another country when they will come to Bali. We already save and have some procedure to make it all the people join good join when traveling in Bali.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman, for the clear answer regarding the questions. So maybe this is the last question that come from Miss Siti Zaharo, PhD. I want to know related with the quality of student who graduated from vocational education in pandemic era, because the students cannot do some practice in the school directly. It is influent in their skill. So how to solve it? So Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman, time is yours.
Yeah. So the question is a good be answer from the school or from the Ganesha University, but from our side, from our industry hospitality in Bali. So we have a program for the training. Even they come from a lot of study. There is a college, there is a high school for tourism study. Where they come to our industry, we have also the program for training with our standard. So that's why we don't worry about uh, the student. But when we talk about the time, this is already no good time. So we cannot accept all the students when they doing the training program in our industry. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman, SAG MSI. So as we notice that the time is up for the first session, we would like to say thanks, and we're glad to have so many valuable information and insight from the keynote speaker. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we entering the second session, it will be continued with the symbolic handover of certificate from our Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, to the keynote speaker. For Dr. Igede Sudirta, MPD, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. On behalf of the Ganesha University of Education, I would like to present a certificate for Mr. Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman SAG MSI. Thank you very much for the participant in this webinar. Please accept the certificate.
Thank you, Pak Dr. Gede Sidarta. Thank you very much, Pak.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Once again, thank you Bapak Ida Bagus Purwa Sideman SAG MSI for the excellent presentations in regards of the tourism and hospitality industry in Bali and impacting to the vocational education in Bali, of course. Thank you, Bapak. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the second presentation. We are pleased to welcoming our honorable speaker, undernamed Dr. Jerry Laukia, to deliver his presentation. For Dr. Jerry Laukia, time is yours.
Honorable Dean Kenneth Sudirta, dear speaker, ladies and gentlemen, selamat siang, good afternoon. Indeed, my name is Jerry Laukia, and thank you for the introduction. I'm the director of hal-hal University of Applied Sciences, School of Vocational Teacher Education, and like Mr. Jan Markus Holm mentioned, Edu Excellence company is sales and marketing company owned by 3 universities of applied sciences, where hal-hal University of Applied Sciences is one, and we are making very close cooperation with Mr. Jan Markus Holm and Edu Excellence. In my presentation, I was planning to introduce to you a little something about hal-hal University of Applied Sciences, and then vocational teacher education, what we are doing, and of course then some inquiries which we have made in Finland in the area of this COVID for students, for teachers, what kind of experiences we have in the area of education, and maybe what kind of ideas we have received for the future. And like we have heard those previous presentations, we have also very much same questions to be solved in Finland like there in Indonesia, especially this tourism and education. This pandemic is a global issue. It's a global question. I think we do not have had anything like this before in the history of mankind and global history. It is an issue in Indonesia, it's an issue in Europe, in America, in every country. And it has effects for every sector in world of work, in business life, and in education. Maybe it has a little bit different kind of effects in the area of different business sectors. And we have understood that this information technology has had very strong effects in certain areas of business even before pandemic. For example, banking sector or insurance sector, we use those services already now and already before pandemic online. In fact, in my hometown, I'm not quite sure if we have any traditional bank kontor or bank premises anymore, but we use online and digital services. But this pandemic, especially like we heard before, has had very great effects for tourism. Like in Indonesia and Bali, tourism is very important, also in Finland. And we have had to think how to proceed. Also in restaurant, tourism, catering, hotel sector, it has had very great effects. Maybe traditional industry has managed a little bit better, but however, great influences also in this sector. But I do my best to share my presentation, and maybe one of the most common questions in the area of pandemic is that, are you able to see my presentation? You could answer. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes,
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Can see your presentation.
Should I put this slideshow on?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So indeed, my name is Jerry Laukia, and this is my contact information. So if you want to contact me later on, so please do not hesitate to contact. And little something about Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. Haaga-Helia in a nutshell. Haaga-Helia is located in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. And one of the, well, if we think about students, we have some 10,000, 11,000 students, staff members around 400, 500. We have 5 campuses. Our main campus is here in Helsinki. Then we have campuses in Porvoo, which is some 40 kilometers east from Helsinki. And then we have Haaga campus, which is here and here, and in Vierumäki, which is here, which is our sports and leisure, some 100 kilometers north from Helsinki, and also Malmi campus. And we have more than 1,000 international degree students, 200 partner universities. I just tried to observe if we have any partner universities in Indonesia. I'm not quite sure about that, but little bit this later. Some 350 incoming exchange students. And however, international contacts are very important for Haaga-Helia, and it is internationalization is one key element in the strategy of Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. This is just the governing structure, organizational structure of Haaga-Helia. And like you can see, we renewed our organizational structure just a couple of months ago. We have had very big change in changing organization. We have moved from units to process organization, and it is still going on. And however, here is School of Vocational Teacher Education, and my name, and we are concentrating on teaching training, research development work, and also we take care of pedagogical development of Haaga-Helia University of Applied Science teaching staff. And we educate in Haaga-Helia business. Biggest education sectors are business, administration, information, technology, hotel catering and tourism, sports and leisure, and journalists, and then School of Vocational Teacher Education and education of teachers, special need teachers, and study counselors. Also, of course, research and development work and commercial activities are very important for us. And Mr. Dr. Teemu Kokko is the president and CIO of Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. We are here, this green country, one of the northernmost countries in the world. And these blue marked countries are countries where we have Haga-Helia University of Applied Sciences, we have partner institutions, or we have more international activities. Like you can see, very many countries in the world. And when we think about School of Vocational Teacher Education and vocational teacher training, I will explain you a little bit later, more detailed. What does it exactly mean? Many countries, they are interested in also vocational teacher education, and our most important activities at the moment are there in South Africa and in Latin America. And also we have had pretty close cooperation with South Korea. And when we come to School of Vocational Teacher Education activities, of course, one of the most important activity and duty which has offered us from the Ministry of Education in Finland. Haga-Helia is one of the 5 universities of applied sciences which are educating teachers for vocational education or practical or technical education sector. In different countries, maybe they have or they use different concept for this vocational. Maybe in Finland we use the concept vocational education, which means all vocational education sectors like technical sector, transportation, agriculture, business sector, tourism, catering, nurse, all education sector where they educate staff members, professionals for practical education sectors or practical skills and competencies and practical world of work. Some countries, they use technical education or professional education, but in Finland, we use this vocational education. So this teacher education, the intake this year 2021, was 325 new teacher students. And we have also English-speaking teacher education. The curriculum in English-speaking teacher education is the same than in Finnish-speaking, but the language is English, and that is because every year earlier we received students who had moved from other countries to Finland and who had difficulties to follow Finnish-speaking education, but who, however, would like to have qualification, teacher qualification in Finland. So that's why we have now had this English-speaking teacher education. In fact, it has been since 20 years. Since 2004, we started this English-speaking teacher education. It was a pilot, but every year we have had very good applicants. So it's still going on. And then we have special need teachers. Intake is 30 students. This special need teacher, they receive more special skills and competencies to meet different kind of learners, and there maybe if they have some difficulties in learning, mental or physical difficulties, so special need teachers, they will guide and counsel and teach, and they have special skills and competencies to teach those kind of students. In Finland, we have aim and objective from the government of Finland that all students will study at least basic education, and now we received a new regulations decided by the Parliament of Finland. It was last winter that compulsory education will continue till the age of 18 years old. So students will continue after basic education to upper secondary education, and aim and objective is that all students, 100% of students, will study upper secondary education degree and qualification. So teachers, they will meet very different kind of learners, and that's why we must have very versatile teacher education also. Study counselors, 25 students intake. However, they are persons who are guiding and counseling students, for example, to advise and support students in their career planning, to support them planning their studies, and also to make cooperation with schools, institutions, and world of work. And in Finland, we have in all education sectors, we have philosophy of education, which is competence-based. It is very personalized. So students, indeed, they need also personal support and guidance and counseling when they are, so that they are proceeding in their studies. We have also continuing education in Finland. We offer continuing education for those teachers who are already working as a teacher. And we all know that if you have done your teaching education, let's say 10 years ago, you definitely need some new ideas and some new skills and competencies for your profession, like other professionals, doctors, pilots, engineers, they do. So we are offering also continuing education for teacher staffs. Commercial activities, and export education, like I mentioned, we are at the moment educating teachers, for example, there in South Africa and Latin America, in Colombia, for example. So these are our activities. And research and development projects. Haka-Helia School of Vocational Teacher Education is focusing on vocational pedagogy, influential vocational pedagogy, and the new or different kind of learning environments in vocational education. There are very versatile learning environments. What kind of results we receive in the education using different kind of learning environments. Of course, this digital pedagogy is one, or artificial intelligence, how to use this to increase the influence and the quality of education. Also, of course, some ethical questions we are researching, and cooperation with very different kind of projects together with international partners. We make, of course, publication, dissemination of results, and seminars and conferences together with our partners. So these are the activities of School of Vocational Teacher Education, Haka-Helia. And it was March 2020 16th of March 2020, when this pandemic very strongly came to Finland, and in practice overnight all education and all work moved to distance. Schools and universities, they were not closed, but the premises were closed, but the education continued and also the work continued. And also in Haaga-Helia, we did not change our timetable or calendar. This is a picture of our staff member meeting, School of Vocational Teacher Education staff members. And this is April 2020, our first staff member meeting during this COVID, and when we had moved to distance work. But we just moved our staff member meetings to remote model. Normally, we had our staff members meeting in our auditorium in contact, and we discussed and of course developed our work. But since then, all staff members meeting have been like this. Of course, we have had to change our habits, but however, we follow the calendar like we did before, and also all staff members are involved, and that we work together. Very seldom our teachers are working alone, but we have some teams or groups working together with students, and this has continued. However, we have this pandemic situation. This text is in English, Vocational Teacher Education since 1950. It was last year. We celebrated our 70th 70 year of work in the area of teacher education. This is the education system. Mr. Jan Markus also informed you a little bit of this, but maybe when we think about teacher training, we have this basic education and comprehensive schools, 9 years or one extra year, which is compulsory or voluntary, sorry. And these teachers are educated in scientific universities. They are like classroom teachers or subject teachers, depending on what level they are educating. Then we have upper secondary education, and like I mentioned, from now on, all students should continue upper secondary education, either upper secondary general education, like high school type of education, where they have matriculation exam, or vocational education, where we have different kind of vocational education colleges and different kind of vocational education, like I mentioned, different kind of sectors, and they all should continue, and they should study this upper secondary education. And we are educating teachers for this vocational education, upper secondary level, and also universities of applied sciences. And scientific universities are educating teachers for upper secondary, general education, or high school education. Here in scientific universities, teachers or professors, they do not necessarily have to have pedagogical education. But I must say that now on today, many lecturers who are working there in scientific universities, they also come to our institution to study this pedagogical education, because However, of course, the role of university is to make top class research, but learning is enhancing and supporting top class research. And also universities are educating not just researchers, but also specialists for world of work. And of course, we have to concentrate also learning and education and pedagogy, how to develop education so that students are learning quicker, deeper, and better than previous students. Here are Universities of Applied Sciences, Haaga-Helia as one of these. And here we have regulations that teachers, they also have to have teacher education. 60 ECTS point pedagogical education. So we are educating teachers for vocational education at University of Applied Sciences. Of course, this pedagogical education gives a teacher a pedagogical qualification for other institutions or schools too, but then there can be differences in degrees and or other requirements. And in Finland, we have nationwide requirements for teachers. In vocational education, they must have degree. They must have normally University of Applied Sciences or university degree or vocational higher degree. Then they must have normally 3 to 5 years work experience in their field. And then they come to School of Vocational Teacher Education to study this pedagogical education, which is 1 academic year normally. It's flexible, but normally 1 academic year. In University of Applied Sciences, teachers, they must have masters and then work experience and then pedagogical education. Then this pandemic, COVID pandemic and distance education and vocational education training. Like I mentioned, all schools moved to distance work in 16th of March 2020, and it was overnight. It was ordered by the government of Finland. And schools and university campuses were closed, and this means that the premises and schools and campuses were closed, but education continued. Education continued, all institutions. And this situation continued all the rest of the spring team until June 2022. But now this last winter, 2020, 2021, it has been some kind of hybrid situation. Sometimes campuses are, or we could have had some contact education, small groups, and sometimes upper secondary education, distance education and contact, that has been varied, but maybe a hybrid system. We have had distance education and we have had some kind of contact, but universities mainly contact all this winter 2021. Also, many companies and workplaces were all closed and they have had to lay off workers temporarily. And like I mentioned, the situation has been very difficult, especially in the area of cafeterias, restaurants, tourism. But maybe trade, industry, building sector, the situation has not been so difficult. And even commerce has, maybe in Finland, inside commerce has maybe increased because people are at home. And of course, maybe traveling, domestic traveling, domestic, this tourism has increased, but tourism abroad and transportation and traveling abroad has had very difficult times. In vocational teacher education, when we moved to this distance work, it was not so dramatic change because online education methods were used already earlier. And I must say that this pandemic, when it came so suddenly, it did not really start this distance education, but because we had done that already before, this digitalization and development of information technology had already moved education so that we had used distance education before. But of course, when we think all schools in Finland, from basic education to universities, all teachers, of course, it was a different and it was a great change because if teachers, more or less, they were voluntarily moving or more voluntarily changing their, or voluntarily taking new methods and studying new teaching methods and using distance education. And now all teachers had to use distance methods. It was in that way a change. In vocational teacher education, we had used contact periods and distance learning even before. But now those contact periods we had to move into distance periods. But of course, in vocational education training sector, especially younger teachers were already before distance education methods, and they more or less knew how to use those equipments. And we had taken this into consideration in teacher training. Younger teachers who had, for example, our teacher education, they knew how to use distance education methods. But of course, a little bit more experienced teachers, maybe it was a little bit new for them. And habits and culture in distance education varied very much between education providers. And very rapidly, and during last year and this year, there has been several inquiries made of COVID-19. For example, Trade Union Education Finland has researched teachers. Haaga-Helia School of Vocational Teacher Education, we researched university students. Student Union researched students, their opinion, and Finnish Association for Development of Vocational Education asked education providers how did they proceed. And University of Applied Science Common Inquiry for Teachers and Haaga-Helia School of Vocational Teacher Education Inquiry for Teacher Students just recently received results. And those results show positive experience and challenges. For example, teachers, they mentioned that they have learned very much to use distance teaching methods and want to learn more. This is something which we heard also in Indonesia of those in those previous presentations. So this is one clear result. And also they want to learn more because they have noticed that, okay, computers and devices, they are not enemies of a teacher. They can use very effectively, and maybe there are some benefits. They can use better those devices also in the area of education than so-called traditional teaching methods. Teachers, they say that they have given daily instructions for students. There is one interesting answer, but I will come this a little bit later. Situation has forced to develop new methods in education. Definitely, if there was a lockdown, immediately there was no question. You just had to develop and survive somehow, also in the area of education, because education continued. Education did not stop. Personal study planning in education has increased. This is especially for students. They have make personal study planning more clearly than before. And also for teachers, they have to plan their education and teaching differently than they did before. They could not use same methods they have used, let's say, a couple of years since, or same materials even, but they have to renew their materials, their planning, how to educate and what kind of materials to use and what kind of pedagogical methods to use. Teachers and students have learned how to solve problems. This is very important learning outcome, because I think in the future, especially in the area of education, how to solve problems. We have very many questions to be solved globally in the future. Climate exchange, how to produce food, energy, how to produce energy, how to work together with different kind of people. So how to make new innovations. So this problem solving, I think it's key element in the future education. And about 70% of students feel their studies have proceeded well, but challenges. Only 28% of vocational education teachers informed to use real-time distance teaching. I mean that they are real-time in contact with their students, like we are now. You are there in Indonesia, we are in Finland, but we are real-time connected each other. And I think it's problematic when we think about guidance and counseling and cooperation with students. It was challenging for teachers to get contact with some students. Of course, how do we guarantee that students are listening or students are actively working? It's easier, for example, in classroom environment, but if students are somewhere there and teacher is here, how to observe students. Difficult in learning of practical skills. This was also mentioned in these previous presentations. Definitely. In vocational education, we have on-the-job learning periods in vocational education, and also we make very close cooperation with business life in University of Applied Sciences, this learning of practical skills, on-the-job learning. If we think about transportation or hotel catering, some technical aspects, we might have some answers for this, but it is a challenge. Some 30% of students had some difficulties in their studies, motivation, lack of support, loneliness. We must also face these questions. In some cases, skills demonstrations were forced to postpone to the future. And if we think about graduation rates last year, 2020, we do not see very big change. But now it seems that when this situation has continued this spring, many students, they have had to postpone their graduation because they have had some difficulties in practical learning, on-the-job learning. And this is an issue for the future. And international cooperation, student exchange has been difficult. Of course, if there was not possible to travel, this was not possible. But on the other hand, maybe international cooperation has increased, like we do now. Have, for example, a seminar or webinar to Indonesia. It's easier to have this webinar than that we all had to travel to Indonesia, or you had to come to Finland. So it has benefits also. This is maybe a summary of those results. First, we have here distance education as a method, negative opinions and positive opinions. And then we have quality of education, negative comments and positive comments. And distance education as a method, some 34% of students, they answer that they do not like this distance education as a method, especially if it's 100% distance. They say that it's difficult to concentrate. It's tiring to all the time to sit in front of the screen and study. Maybe they have some difficulties when they are sitting there at home. Maybe devices are not in good condition. Maybe they feel some loneliness, like I mentioned. Maybe they say they don't learn so well than in traditional education. Some 66% of students, they however say that, okay, distance education suits me well, it's flexible, they can concentrate better, they can concentrate on work, there is no any, social harm from other students, like maybe there can be so positive aspects. But then when they estimate and students, they estimate the quality of education, some 77% said that pedagogical methods should be more developed. So however they say that, okay, distance education as such suits me well, they want more, they want better education. And only 33% are happy in general for this distance education as a method, and they are happy for the quality of education. And this is important. And however we develop different kind of distance education methods, those especially those courses which are 100% autonomous, or those, for example, those MOOCs, they must be developed pedagogically. We must think about pedagogy. How do students learn? What do they learn? How do we estimate that they are learning? So this is we should move into this direction, that distance education is all right, and we should also develop pedagogical methods. Very shortly, inquiry made for teacher students 2021. We had some 36 positive comments, 66 negative comments, and 16 neutral comments. Positive, flexible, learned a lot, digital, encouraged to use distance education. And these are teacher students who have asked this. Negative, difficulties for teaching practice, yes, because our teachers, they have to have also teaching practice. Of course, if there's only distance learning possibilities and distance teaching practice possibilities, of course, it's not so good and versatile. Difficult to network with other students. Yes, when they come to our university, they want to network with other teachers, students, and that was difficult. Also loneliness. This is just one picture of our teacher. She is there educating teachers, very modern way. Teacher students are somewhere in front of her device. In fact, these teacher students are there in South Africa, and she is working in Helsinki. There are benefits, but also some aspects we have to develop for the future. And in the end, distance learning lessons, next steps, students, we have to think and realize that also students, they have to face these new education methods. They have to be a little bit more active than in classroom education. They have to have courage to ask information. They must have courage to put, for example, microphone on, or they must have courage to write a comment, which might be a new aspect for students. They have had to ask feedback, and they must have also initiative in their when they are studying. Good skills to use information technology in education, and we have to somehow to encourage, and we have to teach also students to use information technology in education. How to learn social skills? This is a question mark, because aim and objective is also to educate good citizens, active citizens of a society. How do we prevent loneliness? How do we encourage them to work together with other students when we use distance learning methods? And important to have real work experience. This somehow we can use virtual reality, artificial reality. We can use simulations, but somewhere in the end, they must go to real work and have some experience also. But we can develop also distance work so that we can make learning quicker and more deep. Distance learning lessons, next step, teachers. Versatile pedagogical methods is important. We must not use only one, but also very different kind of pedagogical methods. Here is one of our teachers. She has in front 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kind of devices, and he is educating, or she is educating her students. Systematic digital education, teaching and pedagogical for teachers. More emphasis on personal study planning in education. These distance education modules must be pedagogical planned. Of course, when we are planning education, we must in the first place plan the whole module and whole course when we are using distance education methods. It is not the same than we are having a course in classroom. Learning practical skills. We can develop simulations and small group pedagogy and virtual reality. So that, however, if we have this kind, of course, we hope that pandemic will be over in the near future, but maybe these simulations will stay and virtual reality will come also in the area of education. However, feedback for the students, guidance and counseling, they are even more important than in contact teaching. We must emphasize students need feedback, they need guidance, they need counseling. They need to know how they have proceeded in the studies, what they have done right or wrong, counseling and guidance. Very important in every education, however, what methods we use. Distance education is not only the question of technology, but also pedagogy. This is one key lesson we have now learned. Pedagogy, we must put emphasis on that. Kiitos, thank you, terima kasih, matur suksma.
Sure. So, thank you very much, Dr. Jerry Laukia, matur suksma. So, this is such an interesting presentation that we can adapt in Indonesia in regards of the pandemic COVID-19. So before we entering the question and answer session, I noticed that pandemic outbreak cases or pandemic outbreak in Finland is not giving dramatic change in Finland due to the digitalization in the educational is already running as well before the pandemic in Finland. So let me check regarding the question and answer. We have 20 minutes for the question and answer. So let me check the chat column first. Okay, so we already had the questions from Dr. Wayan Sukerti. The question is, as we know, in Finland is one of a country with an excellent education system. How is the government strategic, especially in education, especially in vocational education? This is the first question. And the second is, since COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, learning has been done by online, but we felt difficulties regarding practical learning or practical. How do you deal with it in regard of practical, some practice and some practical learning student in Finland? So, Mr. Dr. Jerry Laukia, time is yours.
Thank you very much. And first question, this governmental strategy of vocational education training. Like I mentioned earlier, our government and parliament has decided to continue this compulsory education so that all students must continue their studies of the basic education to upper secondary education, vocational education, or high school type of general education. And this means that our government has now put more resources on upper secondary education for guidance and counseling, and for example, not just teaching, but this guidance and counseling, so that all students could proceed in their studies, so that we must not let students alone. If they have some difficulties in their studies, we should have professionals supporting them, and also to increase, aim and objective is to increase the cooperation between vocational education, educational institution providers and world of work, so that students could go maybe more than today to real world of work to learn. So we very much think that also world of work is a learning environment. It is a challenge, and we have to develop processes for that. And of course, we have to develop teaching, guidance, and counseling support for students when they are having this on-the-job learning period. But I think our government, however, puts very much emphasis on vocational education. The challenge is when not only this pandemic, but this digitalization, it is changing very rapidly world of work and business life. I mentioned this banking sector earlier, but also tourism, also industry, also maybe healthcare. So, and it is making business life more productive. For what professions we should educate staff members? That is a question that we try to estimate all the time for the future. But and also what students should learn. And like I mentioned, this problem solving is one which is becoming more important. Also social skills and competencies, and also maybe networking together, making cooperation with other staff members and school and business life area. Maybe these are now those aspects our government is putting emphasis on. And then this another question, COVID-19, how to learn practical skills and competencies. That is a question. Maybe we can develop those simulation education. We have used it already. If you think about, for example, transportation, for example, truck drivers or pilots, or for example, in forestry, we use simulations. Maybe in the future also nurse, maybe we can use it even in somehow in tourism education also. And this virtual reality might be also one which we are now piloting. How to, because we can develop very practical environments and make practical assignments students must solve in virtual reality. But that is true that somehow students, however, they must go to real work. And that's why I hope that this pandemic will be over and we can in the future also offer this real work online or world of work learning environments for students.
Okay. Thanks for your kind of answer regarding the questions that already solved the problem in regards of the pedagogical method. In regards of vocational education during pandemic COVID-19, and also problem solve in the social skill and competencies. That collaboration between school and business life area. So we are going to the second questions that I noticed from Mr. Roike Vincentius. His questions is from product design. Mr. Roike Vincentius from Product Design Diploma 3 program at Samarinda State Polytechnic. His questions is, at the moment, we are in the process of upgrading our Diploma 3 programs to the Diploma 4 programs. As suggested by the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Cultural Research and Technology, we have problem in the process, especially in building the curriculum, since we need to find benchmarking campus from abroad that has similar program. It is difficult for us to find similar program from vocational university abroad. Most of the university only have 2 years diploma programs. Until now, we haven't found many relevant benchmarking for 4 years vocational program in product design. My question is, how is vocational program in Finland diverse from Diploma 4 vocational programs in Indonesia? And is there any 4 years and is there any 4 years vocational program equal to bachelor degree focusing in product design in Finland, so that we can maybe contact the campus or university to do benchmarking on the curriculum? Thank you. So, Dr. Jerry Laukia, time is yours.
In Finland, vocational, this initial vocational education degree is normally 3 years, and University of Applied Science degree is normally 3 to 4 years. And I'm not very familiar of, I'm sorry, to Indonesian degree system, but in university sector, this the University of Applied Science sector, the degree program is based on upper secondary education. So in universities, we expect that students, they have already done the upper secondary education, and this degree is going more deep and more qualified than upper secondary, and also this very systematic cooperation with business life, and also that we have so-called research-based pedagogical methods, so that students all the time they are studying their substance, they have to make also research-based assignments, and they must also, however it's practical education, they must in general, the aim and objective of upper secondary or University of Applied Science education is to make new innovations and solve problems in real work. And this is maybe one idea also how to develop the curriculum, that it's make students actively solve problems, not just learn what is at the moment happening in world of work or those certain skills and competencies, but to together with world of work to develop and solve practical questions and problems, and to make new innovations. I'm not quite sure if I'm able to answer your questions better, but this is how we do and what is the aim and objective in here. Also, this pedagogical aspect, that all the time we make very clear criteria for learning, and we estimate that learning outcomes really, or students really are fulfilling the learning outcomes. Quality assurance system maybe is another aspect which is important and systematic when we are developing education, also in vocational education and in University of Applied Science education. Thank you. I'm not quite sure if I answered the question, but hope you received some idea.
So, thank you, Dr. Jerry Laukia, already delivering regarding the questions from Mr. Roike Vincentius. Now we are going to the next questions. It comes from Gusti Ayu Delayanti. Om Swastiastu. Glad to be here with all of great informant. Dear Honorable Mr. Jerry Laukia from Hagahelia University. My name is Delayanti. As a student in engineering and vocational faculty in Ganesha University of Education. According to your presentation, I found that some 30% of students had some difficulties in their studies, such as motivation, lack of support, loneliness. This situation is exactly what we feel for entire year. I wonder the way you solve this problem, and would you mind to give us a motivation to face this problem? So, Dr. Jerry Laukia, time is yours.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think this is a universal question, and many countries the same issue. In Haka-Helia, we have developed some support for students so that it's easier to take contact for staff members. We have weekly meetings, online meetings for students where they can discuss. Maybe if they have some problems, they can inform and they will receive advice. And the second is that we have supported our teachers to not just to study how to use technology, but also how to use information technology and distance learning pedagogically. And that is very important that they are in contact with students. They give feedback, and they also assess, they inform how students are proceeding. One issue is how to make students to work together. That is also our Haka-Helia student association. They have also developed activities where students can meet, during their free time online. I'm not exactly aware of how they have managed, but this is, however, a very important aspect so that they can have social meetings together. I mentioned this loneliness one question, so these are what we have done. We hope that in the future, like I mentioned, we can have also contact meetings, so that students really can contact face-to-face each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jerry Laukia, to delivering regarding the questions from Gusti Ayu Delayanti, I'm sorry. And then we are moved to the last questions in this session from Komang Swarma. Komang Swarma is a student of engineering and vocational faculty in Ganesha University of Education. His question is, it's very difficult for the student to get practice in the school and hotel, especially in tourism industry. What should we do in this pandemic to do link and match between industry and vocational school if learning activities must be digitalizations because the student needs some practice. Okay, Dr. Jerry Laukia, time is yours.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a critical question when it is the question of vocational education training. Like I mentioned, those simulations, so those virtual reality might be one. Also, business life and also in tourism, tourist companies, they are developing virtual tourism, and of course world of work and education in this case, it it's important that they are working together so that students know exactly what is tourist business at the moment and maybe in the future, and how could they develop new products in the area of tourism, and new ways to travel. That's important. I don't have exactly one answer. I think there are several answers, and maybe also in tourism business, there are companies who are focusing on different kind of tourism and how to offer services for tourists, online or real time or contact, or like earlier mentioned, those bubbles where tourists are traveling from one place into another in one group. This might be increasing, and also digital services so that tourists will receive very quickly latest information and how to do and where to go. And of course, these kind of services are increasing, and this also is changing the education in vocational education. It's, however, important that education and business life, they are working together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Jerry Laukia. As I mentioned before, we are entering to the closing ceremony. And once again, thank you very much for giving us such informative and interesting presentation. And as we notice that Finland is a very nice country, and fourth time in a row has as a happiest country in the fourth time in a row. So I hopefully one day I can visit Finland. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Jerry Laukia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of this seminar or webinar. Before I close the webinar, I would like to take some conclusion from what the speaker has presented. Pandemic COVID-19 impacted tourism. It's extremely decreased in regards of the visitor and giving the direct impact for the economic, especially in Bali. However, the stakeholders' effort to rising up the hospitality industry in Bali is reflected through mass vaccination program and cleanliness, health, safety, environment, sustainability certifications for the tourism industry, and travel bubble program, and also giving the opportunity for vocational education after COVID or on the post-COVID-19, especially in Bali. And then pandemic COVID-19 is not only giving the negative impact in regard of VET or vocational education training. However, it also giving some positive experience, such as I mentioned it, or as I noticed from the presentation, teacher want to learn more in regard how to use technology for the distant teaching method, and the effort of personal study by the student is increased. And as we noticed in Finland, that around 70% feel their studies have proceeded well. And then, however, there are still so many challenges in regards of learning practical skill, since vocational education focuses more on skill and particular field of study and balance them with general knowledge and attitude. So we found a different term between Finland and also Indonesia or Bali. In Bali, mostly our student is live on the remote area or rural area. However, it's hard to maximize the digitalization education due to lack of internet access. So we hopefully we can adapted so many suggestions from Haga Helia University that we can adapt it in our university, especially or in regards of vocational education during pandemic COVID-19. So once again, I would like to thank to the speakers who giving us a valuable insight regarding in how to arrange the sustainability for vocational education during pandemic COVID-19. And of course, to all participants who following this webinar as well too. If there are any mistaken that I did during the webinar, as human being, I do deeply apologize, and I close with Om Santi 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 Om. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam harmoni. So I will giving the time back to the master ceremony. Time is yours.
Thank you so much for Mr. Ki as our moderator in this webinar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we have arrived to the end of this seminar. We would like to say thank you very much to our keynote speakers, Edu Purwosidemen SAG MSI and Dr. Jerry Laukia, for the great presentation today, as well as the participation from the audience. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the event will be continued with a symbolic handover of certificates from the Dean of Engineering and Vocational Faculty, Ganesha University of Education, to Dr. Jerry Laukia. For Dr. Igede Sudirta, MPD, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Sherin. On behalf of the Ganesha University of Education, I would like to present the certificate for our honorable guest, Mr. Jerry Laukia. And please accept the certificate. And thank you very much for your excellent presentation of you. And thank you for all of the participants on this seminar. Om Santi Santi Om.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this seminar will be beneficial for all of us. We do apologize if there are some mistakes that we have done during the seminar. Before we end our seminar today, I would like to remind for all panelists and attendants to fulfill the attendance list that already shared on the chat. On the chat. The link already shared on the chat. And I would like to inform for all of audience, after we end the seminar, with all due respect, you can leave the meeting, and we would like to invite Mr. Jan Marcus and Mr. Emmanuel Sin from Edu Excellence. We invite Mr. Jerry Laukia from Haga Helia University. We also invite Bapak Edu Purwosidemen from PHRI, and we would like to invite Mrs. Nice from Undixa Corporation Agency to stay in the meeting room after we end the seminar. And also we would like to invite Mr. Sunario to stay in the room after we end the seminar to have discussion about the cooperation between Undixa and Haga Helia University. Okay, I think this is the end of our seminar today. Thank you very much for your kind participation, and see you on the other seminar.
Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Kiitos paljon. Terima kasih untuk semua panitia dan pihak Undixa.
Matur suksema to Dr. Jerry Laukia and also Mr. Jan Marcus.